Hello and welcome into Devils in Detail headquarters here at the beautiful Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm Hunter Robinson. On this week's show, we're talking the Final Four, softball, and baseball. So let's get started. The 2017 Final Four took place at the University of Phoenix Stadium in Glendale, Arizona last weekend. While the stadium hosted the games, the City of Phoenix hosted fan-friendly events such as an autograph session and the free concert series that features some of the top acts in the country. Here at Devils in Detail, we were lucky enough to have someone there covering the event. Our own Jordan Kay got to hear some great stories and watch some great basketball. We now bring in Jordan to discuss his time at the Final Four. So, Jordan, I'll go ahead and I'll just start out with this. How was the Final Four?
It was incredible. It was so much fun just getting to talk to the players and coaches, go in the locker rooms, kind of like hear some of the stories that you wouldn't necessarily get to hear and kind of see their personalities come out. It was really great to be that close to them.
Okay, so tell me more about what Arizona State's role was exactly in hosting the Final Four.
Yeah, so they didn't do anything necessarily with the fan events or any of the concert series like that, but they did kind of provide the media aspect of it, as they kind of were the entire media relations team there at the Final Four was all Arizona State employees. A lot of the people on the scores table handling like the shot clock and other stuff like that were a lot of ASU employees. So a lot of people from the athletic department took time out of their job there to help out with the Final Four and make sure that it was a success.
And was it solely was it just volunteering for the good of the Final Four, or was there some extra compensation involved? Or?
No, there was no compensation. It was just Arizona State wanting to put on a great show for the NCAA. They kind of just rallied together, got it all done, and it really gives them a good name going forward. If ASU wants to host anything later on, the NCAA knows that ASU is a very good school to do that.
Alrighty, so obviously the Final Four, you have presumably the top four teams in the country. So what do you think ASU basketball can take away from those teams to use in their program moving forward?
Yeah, it was interesting. Just kind of a lot of the teams, they weren't really big names. You didn't really see them. They weren't playing on ESPN every night, so it was kind of weird. But I know Bob Lee Hurley was sitting front row, and he got to see what I saw. Not a lot of one and dones. It showed that you can still build a program with 4-year guys, 3-year guys who can stick to the program, and people that really just fit the system and know the coach. Oregon was a team, they really just found their kind of pipeline. Canada, Boucher, Ennis, and Dylan Brooks, all from Canada. They really kind of tapped that pipeline to make their championship caliber team. Obviously, Boucher wasn't playing, but if he was, it might have been a different story. Gonzaga and South Carolina, they used a lot of international players. Gonzaga had, I think, 3, and South Carolina had 3. South Carolina had a lot of local guys too. So there was just so many different ways. And Gonzaga, a lot of transfers. They had 3 transfers on their starting lineup, including Nigel Williams-Goss. North Carolina is just North Carolina. They're gonna get who they want to get. But again, not very many one and dones, guys who kind of stuck. But they did have some McDonald's All-Americans. But it showed you don't need to be a blue blood in college basketball to win conference tournaments, to get to Final Fours. You just need guys to fit your system. And Bobby Hurley hasn't got those guys yet. He's been there 2 years. Let him have 4 or 5 to get his guys in there. None of these coaches came in and just did it right away. They took time. Mark Few, 20 years. Dana Altman, 6 or 7. It's going to take time, but if he can get his guys in there, we'll see if they can buy into the system.
Another thing that all those Final Four teams had that ASU does not is they had a post game.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll see if ASU can develop that going forward.
Very true.
Now, one last thing is, in one of your articles that you wrote, you met a very interesting South Carolina student who arrived to Phoenix. Literally, what was that about?
Oh yeah, that was a North Carolina student arrived to the Final Four during halftime because he couldn't. He couldn't afford to get the plane flight, so he had to use all the miles that him and his parents could come up with. They bought the only ticket 3 days prior to the game, and the only time the game was going to be during halftime. So he rushed to the stadium, got an Uber. I think he mailed his luggage or something like that to get there as quickly as possible. Ran down with about 2 minutes left in the half. Got to see the rest of the second half of their game Saturday and got to see their game Monday, and couldn't have been more happy. It was quite a story.
All right, Jordan, well, thank you for joining me, and here's hoping the ASU gets to host another event in the future.
Thank you guys for letting me go. Appreciate it.
The Arizona State softball team didn't play this past weekend. They had the weekend off, and it couldn't have come at a better time. Riding a 4-game losing streak, the Sun Devils needed a breather. They have 5 series remaining before the postseason, and they're going to need every win they can get in the hopes of making a push to possibly host a regional. I'm now joined by Sam Ficarro and Joey Kahlo to help me discuss the remaining schedule for Arizona State. So, Sam, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with you. What is the key for ASU in order to have a strong finish?
I think for ASU, it's got to be the hitting. The pitching staff has really carried the team, but against the top teams, like when they went on the road to face Washington and Oregon, ASU could not muster any offense just because of how good the pitching staffs are of both of those teams. Against Oregon, they were shut out twice, and they only scored 4 runs in their only game. In Game 2, this series losing 8-4. So ASU has stayed competitive. They just haven't been able to get runs across the board. So they could have had a lot of different results if ASU could have just mustered a little bit of offense.
All right, and then Joey, ASU was swept by Oregon before they took this break. How much, I guess, value are you putting in that sweep?
I wouldn't be too worried about it as a fan because Oregon is really good. They showed why. They got great pitching. I believe they just had their first loss a few games ago against UCLA. So this was a team that was 30-0 in that neighborhood. Really good team. Probably going to end up winning the Pac-12 and being a national seed. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. Like you said, ASU struggled to score runs, but a lot of teams have been struggling to score runs. So I think it's more about the steps they take in the next few series. I wouldn't focus too much on this one.
All right, so then, Sam, we just talked about it. ASU hasn't been able to beat the top teams in the Pac-12. They were swept by Oregon, and before that, they were swept by Washington. 2 of those being 2 of the top 3 teams in the Pac-12 right now. So do you think that it's an issue that ASU can't beat these top teams?
I don't think it's an issue. It's definitely interesting, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Like ASU has had to go to those places. It's not easy. They have not had a tough team come to their place yet, which they will next weekend when Utah comes. They'll be a ranked team. So I think ASU, I think the real positive you could take, though, even though they have lost, they definitely have been competitive, which is, I think, a real bonus for ASU. A lot of people didn't know what to expect from this team because it's a first-year head coach. Kelsey Kessler transferred, the ace of the staff last season. But ASU has really done a great job incorporating the young talent with also the established players as well. So I think ASU, they could definitely build off. If they could do well against Stanford this weekend, hopefully that will give them some momentum heading into this brutal stretch.
All right, and then finally, Joey, what are you expecting from ASU for this final push of the season?
Well, they definitely got to make a push if they want to host a regional. Right now, sitting at 2-7. You got a series against Stanford, who's 0-9 in the Pac-12, so that's an opportunity. If you can sweep them, get to 5-7, come back versus Utah, regroup, get back to home, and start making a run at this thing. I would say realistically, with about 4 other teams or 3 other series to go against ranked teams, you're going to see ASU kind of finish in the top half of the pack, maybe in the 3, 4, 5 range in the Pac-12. So that should set them up well in the postseason. But the main thing is they got to keep the pitching going. If Rendeck and Juarez keep doing their thing, I think ASU is going to be set up pretty well in a lot of these ball games to win.
All right, guys. Well, we'll have to see if ASU can make something happen here at the ending stretch of the season. Thank you two for joining me. While the softball team has a chance to make something happen in the postseason, the baseball team's chances of making the postseason are pretty much over. After being swept in another series, the Sun Devils are now 2-10 in Pac-12 play. I'm now joined by Alec Hendon and Killian McClatchy to help me break down this struggling team. So, Killian, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. What positives have you seen from this team, if there are any?
Yeah, like you said, it's very difficult to find positives, but, the way you have to look at it, you have to find somewhere. But, there are 3-11 in their last 14 games, 5-game losing streak, and they have been outscored 53-18 during this losing streak. Yeah, it sounds bleak. Trust me. Trust me, I know. But you got to look at some positives. Lyle Lynn, he's been impressive, as he has been all season. He's been fantastic, still hitting a team-leading .354. And he has 17 RBIs on the season as well. And he had a 12-game hitting streak heading into yesterday's game. He ended up losing. He went 0 for 4 yesterday, but, not really anything went right yesterday for the Sun Devils. And then also Chas Montoya. He's pitched well since getting a chance to start at USC a couple weeks ago. He threw well against USC. He threw pretty well against UCLA as well. He got roughed up a little bit this weekend against Cal. But the big thing is he was able to eat up innings, which is what's really going to help out this team going forward. Is the starters need to start going deeper into ball games, and that's the big thing, to give the bullpen some rest.
All right, so then, Alec, I'll pretty much ask the same question to you. Is there any reason for optimism for this team?
Right now, at this point in time, I can't find any, but, I mean, this is definitely a future project. This is a young team. They had the best recruiting class, according to some sources, last year. Coming into the season, they lost 2 good players to early rounds in the MLB draft. So this is a team that's built for the future. We'll see what Lingos can do his next 2 years. He's a junior now. He'll be a senior next year. Montoya is only a freshman. Van Scoy is a freshman. We'll see how they can go from there. So it is a young team. I'll tell Sun Devil fans to be patient. I know they're hearing that from a lot of their programs this year, but they just got to be patient for now.
All right, so then, Killian, this upcoming weekend, they're facing Washington State, who they haven't been very much better than the Sun Devils. So how do you think this series is going to be for ASU?
You know, it's going to be an interesting one. Going into it, you know, it's an odd matchup because looking at it, Washington State, they're 1-6 over the last 2 weeks. They got swept by Cal themselves, lost in midweek to University of Pacific last week as well, and then they lost 2 out of 3 to number 8 Arizona. But the thing is with this Washington State team, they have the ability to score a lot of runs. They've got 6 players with double-digit RBIs, and Justin Harrer, who's the power bat in that lineup, he's hitting .309. He's got 4 homers, 22 RBIs himself. He's got the team lead there. I can see you're raising your eyebrows there going, oh boy. But the thing with that, though, is on the other side, their pitching is the weak point. Cody Anderson, who's their ace, he's 3-2 with a 2.79 ERA. After him, there's not really very many people there. The other 2 starters that usually start on Saturday and Sunday for him, Ryan Walker and Damon Jones, they both have 5+ ERAs. So that's one positive going forward. And the last one, Wazoo does have to come down here to Phoenix, and Washington State, the Cougars, are 4-11 this season on the road. So that is one positive looking at it. You know, the Devils at home, give them a little bit of home cooking, maybe a little bit. Hey, I have to see.
Hey, well, anything helps. So then, Alec, finally, I will ask you, what do you think has been the main issue for Arizona State this season when it comes to facing the Pac-12?
Well, they're just not being able to pitch and able to shut down the opposing lineups. I know they competed hard against Oregon State, and even though they're the number 1 team right now, they played pretty well in that series. They didn't get blown out really in any of those games. They competed with the team. So I saw Tracy Smith's reason for optimism, but just aside from Lingos, who's kind of struggled, he couldn't even finish the first inning because he was dealing with an illness this weekend. There just isn't enough pitching right now that's able to compete and get outs in the Pac-12. That's their main issue right now. The offense is good enough to score runs, but if you can't stop them, you're not going to keep being any ball games.
All right, guys, well, we'll have to see if the home cooking, I guess, does help this weekend against Washington State. Thank you two for joining me. We aren't quite done yet. While we've talked about the Final Four, softball, and baseball on today's show, there's always one guy who loves to have the last word. Take it away, Matt.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Stolboff, and this is The Last Word. Now, I mentioned in the previous Last Word segment how the next few series for ASU baseball will be crucial ones, and Arizona State failed to live up to the challenge. Since March 31st, the Sun Devils have lost 2 or 3 to UCLA before losing 1 game to U of A and then being swept by Cal. Now they are dead last in the Pac-12 with only 2 wins in the conference and a 12-18 record overall. Their issues are coming from both their bats and gloves. They are last in the Pac-12 in hitting with a team average of .253 and are in the bottom of the conference in team ERA with a 5.89 ERA, which is 0.6 runs higher than the second to worst team in the Pac-12, Washington State. If they keep up the terrible performances, ASU's historic 54-year streak of 30-win seasons will be over, and although the team is young, no one expects them to be in the sticky situation they are in now. For The Last Word, I'm Matt Stolboff.
Well, that's our show. Thank you for joining us, and you can keep up with everyone that appeared on the show today by reading their articles on devilsindetail.com. You can keep up to date with everything Arizona State athletics by following Devils in Detail on Twitter at Devils_detail. Make sure to subscribe to the Devils in Detail YouTube page to be notified first about all of our videos, including roundtable discussions about your favorite Arizona State sports. Again, thank you for joining us, and from everyone here in Phoenix, I'm Hunter Robinson saying that we hope to see you again soon.